Waxon traveled back to Citadel. The morning sky began to clear as midday approached. With people now witnessing Waxon in broad daylight, they began to murmur in fear of things that were heard about the hospital and the guild. While he continued his walk back, he was escorted by nearby guards. Duke Waxon, we must accompany you to safety. The city is filled with unrest as of late. Once they went back to the courtyard of the citadel, a nurse was seen on a nearby bench. Waxon looked at her and she began to cry, covering her face. Waxon's eyes widened as he ran to his office. When he reached his quarters, a white letter was on his work table. The message was sent directly to Waxon from the medical ward close by. Fearing the worst, Waxon slowly approached the note, as if slowing down would delay the inevitable. The Duke grabbed the note and paced with his eyes quickly, with every word, looking for something good. Waxon began to tremble, seeing the word death. He then crumbled to the ground, total despair, slamming his hand onto the cold wooden floor. What such crime did my son have to commit to become a victim of this illness? He screamed. Hearing the ruckus in his office, one of the servants came into the room. Sire, what brings you such agony to you? Waxon's eyes were bloody red, with tears running down his cheek rapidly. Reichland is dead. All those bastards told me it would cure him. The merchants, the doctors, and especially those dealers who started all of this. Sire, the servant whispered, I understand the pain you are going through, but to jump to such conclusions, accusing these foreign merchants of killing your son, would not be wise to assume. Waxon, acting hysterical, like a hyena hacking and weeping, suddenly stopped. As if time stood still, his demeanor changed. When the weeping stopped, it became the grinding of teeth. The anger swelled like a fiery furnace, and the shocked face made the servant cower. In a calm voice, Waxon replied with a menacing tone and slowing his words, Nothing can bring him back now. And those crooks will never know the pain of losing a wife and an only son. My heart has soured, yet my mind is clearer than ever. To prevent this sickness ravaging any longer, we must infiltrate the region where this plant's healing properties lie. The servant snapped. That would cause a breach of territory neutrality. Waxon launched up and strangled the servant. Do I look to be trifled with? He screamed. Send out the elites to gather intel, to then torch the village and steal the real plant, the purple hue. We will utilize the medicine to save lives rather than lose them. I care little for neutrality amongst the rabble. The servant fearfully scurried away, whimpering, Thy will be done. Waxon's lust for death began to seek justice for his family. The Duke's mind became scrambled and delusional with the sight of vengeance, and no emotion other than that could save his damnation. The servant rushed from his lord's quarters to the royal barracks outside. Other servants peeked to see what one of their workers was doing. The servant stumbled to the massive stone structure where guards of the elite Waxon Corps stood. The warriors were big in stature and mighty in the presence of the servant. The elites wore a combination of black, gold, and purple garments mixed into the armor. They had patterned black and gold winged helmets overshadowing the height of the servant. They sported the finest pauldrons of the rarest and strongest metals, and had the display of exquisite black war kilts that covered their backside and golden capes tied onto them. Their greaves were polished black and a purple overshirt that showed the elite's insignia. But most importantly, they had the look that personified power and fear. Duke Waxon summons thee, the servant said to the guards. One of the elites grasped the large wooden doors with his gauntlet and opened it. The servant ran over to the barracks master and told him the order. It's odd to see someone like you walk among these parts, said the barrack master. By order of the Duke, the elites of Waxon are hereby instructed to obtain a special item that could help and stop the sickness that's been plaguing our lands, the servant stated. Did we not get those plants in bulk? The barrack master replied. Yes, but it seems as if the antidote we were given was either faulty or phony, and Duke Waxon believes it to be in the hands of village dwellers of Hondo, just north of here. The real plant? The barrack master questioned. Yes, it is believed to be a flower with a purple hue that the dealers said is an instant cure to any illness. The servant then paused. He also wants the village to be made an example of with fire. Very well. By Duke's decree, it shall be done. The barrack master waved off the servant and headed over to the elites of Waxon, who were doing drills. Listen up, men. I have orders from Duke Waxon, sent by a servant to me. He has issued a special operation to retrieve this purple hue flower that is said to have medicinal properties, unlike the original that was a deception. Why not send an army to force them to give us the flower? One of the elite commanders questioned. Because this is from Duke Waxon personally, and you know that any order, especially from our lord, is to be honored and followed through by his command. Nylox, grab the fastest and most proficient men from your unit to ride to the village of Hondo past noon to retrieve this flower. Nylox, a tall, pinkish older man with short gray hair, ran over to the barrack master. I, Duke Waxon, will not be disappointed, Nylox replied. He then walked over to the back of the room, where he saw a rich, dark-skinned, shirtless man with the physique of a warrior and the menacing eyes of a wolf. He had a barreled chest, with veiny arms and hands big enough to choke out any vermin, either man or beast. Tirade, you are the perfect man to see this mission through. Tirade sat in one box and looked up directly to Nylox while sharpening his blade, locking eyes with him. Will there be blood? He leered. Enough for you to bathe in it, Nylox laughed. Tirade stood up and gripped a handshake with Nylox. Then count me in. Besides, I'd rather be out fighting than stuck in these barracks, he replied. Good. Prepare your things, and we'll ride very soon. Nylox then walked over to another man who was rummaging through his leather satchel, sitting on the ground, humming to himself. Nylox stood over the soft-skinned man and began to motion his fingers frantically to get the sitting elite's attention. Oh, I forgot. You're mute, not deaf. Nylox chuckled. Mute looked up, parting his long hazelnut hair to reveal his emerald eyes, looking up from his slouched position. Nylox continued. We are heading to a village on the outskirts of the Honkororus region to retrieve the purple hue, a flower that Duke Waxon has requested. Upon hearing the name of Duke Waxon, Mute quickly stood up, for he knew that this was the highest order and this mission needed to be executed efficiently. Well, now that I have your attention, I want to say this. Even though your communication skills are limited, your survival training and attention to detail are impeccable, and you're one of the best men for the job. You've always been doing exceptionally well in the drills as of late. I would be honored if you would ride with your fellow elites on this mission. Mute gave a wide smile and gestured a playful thumb to signify he was on board. Alright, well, pack your things. We're moving out, Nylox shouted to the rest of his men. All the elites, under Captain Nylox's command, rushed towards their agile steeds to sally forth towards the village. Once they began to leave the main gates of the outer wall bulwark, Duke Waxon stared from his castle window, looking down and seeing hooves and dust slowly crossing over the hill. Times are changing, and we'll have to utilize them, Waxon whispered as he gripped the window curtain.